Professor Mazwe Majola in the studio to unpack the issues around the DA and ANC's alleged or believed loggerheads around the new cabinet. Professor, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Wonderful.
So let's start off with the current situation around the negotiations. From what we understand, there was some communication, obviously not public, in the last couple of days that the ANC and DA may have found themselves. Where are we at the moment? What's caused the escalations and tensions and obviously the subsequent de-escalation?
Well, yeah, it would be a very good thing if really they found one another, because the country cannot afford this state of paralysis anymore. We need stability, we need certainty. And I do think that during the time of negotiations, especially between DA and ANC, communication was not good at all there, because communication is very important during the time of negotiations.
So how much, I mean, you raise an important issue, Professor. How much is lost in translation? And talk to translation, because when President Cyril Ramaphosa writes a letter to John Steenhuisen, right, versus this conversation, I can smile at you and I can say, but Professor, this doesn't work. But you don't feel that in a letter. So is that part of the problem, that some of that communication was not held in person?
Yeah, so the communication was not, because really, during the time of negotiation, there are so many confidential issues, and it's expected that different parties will push hard, and the other one will also push hard. But at the end of the day, they will find each other. There will be that gambit process at the start of negotiations. Like we saw, DA really was pushing hard for demanding more posts. It was part of negotiation to say that we want more. And then it was very good that the president put his foot down and said it's not going to happen. So you will find that in terms of negotiation. But unfortunately, when those letters were leaked, and then it brought this panic and chaos into the country, that what is happening? Are we going to have this and then this? But it's part of negotiation, and great leaders and matured leaders, level-headed leaders, will find each other, because they will know that you can't, it's a give and take. You can't have everything. There will be time when you have to compromise and say, for the sake of the country, let's take what is on top of the table and continue with it.
So you've got stuff that you've got figuratively on the table, as you suggest. Now, at the outset, there were 3 or 4 political parties. Yes. In fact, the ANC had invited multiple parties to the government of national unity. The DA was right up there, the IFP, and potentially a couple of other parties. Now, that landscape has changed somewhat dramatically, because now you have close on a dozen parties, and the EFF are the newest entrants. So it's not just the expectations of these 2 political parties and the ANC and the DA, it's also the other parties. How does that negotiation process work? Because they've made some progress after a few days, 2.5 weeks down the road, there are several other parties that are coming onto the table and making demands of their own.
Absolutely. So you'll find that you'll call it a clash of expectations, the clash of expectations, because as you put it correctly, that at the outset, there are these 3 parties that really came out when the ANC said, we'd like to form the government of national unity, we'd like to work with others, DA, ANC, and IFP. So there were some talks within those 3 parties. If you remember, those are 3 parties that really pushed for the president for Ramaphosa to be elected as the president, obviously with the support of other parties in the legislature. Now, the ANC obviously wanted to have more parties, and others kept on joining. And as others kept on joining until the number they have now, you will notice that there will be that breach of psychological or social contract between the DA, especially the DA, because of that they had some expectation that it seems like it will be just three of us. And then I know that when PA joined, that is when DA really, they were like not happy with it. However, ANC was very strong that no, we need more, parties to join us. As they came, and then it created that problem that now the ANC, all of a sudden, they had to accommodate other parties as well and give them something, whether on executive or on legislature, but at least to offer them something as part of the GNU government.
I want to focus a little on the ANC and how they might be feeling as an establishment with the coming in of more players to the GNU, particularly the EFF, I think, who are the latest entrants, because many of these political parties, whilst the invitation was extended to all political parties, not many said yes immediately. So why not? Why now? What has transpired? What is it that these parties have seen? Is it a case where they realize they are being left out in the cold, that they risk becoming, they lose their relevance if they're not a part of this GNU?
Well, it's part of personality clashes, but also a high level of hubris or pride from some, and then as we are saying that they are now realizing that this train is moving, and obviously they are getting more influence from other stakeholders and other parties to say it would be nice if you were the one there, So they are now trying, or now they are putting the interest to say no, but we could work, but unfortunately those interests are not assisting the establishment of the GNU as it stands now, because the demands also they are putting are unfair, because EFF says we can come with MK, but remove DA and Freedom Front Plus. So you can see that is very, very unfair. And then MK says we can work with you, but without Ramaphosa. So you can see that these are very, very untenable and very unfair demands from them. So that is why Ramaphosa seemed like to say, we are moving on with what we have now, because these are people who have supported us and we have numbers. And it seems like with these partners, we can bring certainty and stability in the country, which is what is needed to move forward.
So what are the potential outcomes if, well, I suppose the question is the DA likely to accept this new offer that's on the table if it's just limited to the 6 cabinet positions?
I hope the DA, with the leadership they have, I think definitely the DA will ultimately accept the offer. As I'm saying that, of course, as they were pushing hard, and it was in their right as the negotiators to say, oh, we want more, but they will realize that no, but we can't have that. But with what they have now, I think they will accept, and if they accept, or when they accept, definitely that will bring stability and certainty into the country, and it will allow the president to also negotiate with other parties, giving them something, something good and others, and then with that they will be able to form the government that is so needed and move forward. I think now, Hugo, there is a morality theory which is called utilitarianism, which advocates that an action is right and is acceptable if it results in the greatest, or rather in the satisfaction and the happiness of the greatest number of the people in the society or in the country. So I think now is that situation that we are finding ourselves in, to say that this is not perfect. this is not ideal, but will this formation bring satisfaction, bring certainty, bring stability for the greatest number of the country in terms of growing the economy, reducing unemployment, poverty, and all these other things with this unity, the government that we have. As I say, it's not ideal, it's not perfect, but we are not going to find that, you know, especially with political parties and political leaders where there's so much power and positions and personalities clashes. We are not going to find that. But if this can work, and then at least the country can move forward.
Now, one of the things that the Sivuya Gwarube of the DA has said, she said the party would insist chairpersons of corresponding portfolio committees come from other political parties. So this is a governance issue. How important are these issues? Is this something likely that the GNU, led by the ANC, if you will accept?
I would prefer that, and I would really support that from governance point of view, because, you know, look at the portfolio committee, and then it's shared and led by the very same party that is governing that department. The question is, how are you going to hold the executive accountable? How are you going to be independent? How are you going to be objective as you are holding this? It's not that it's not doable, depending on people. You know, there are people who can, because you can say the same thing with the speaker. The speaker, obviously, is coming from the ANC. However, it's sharing the whole National Assembly. But, you know, for governance point of view, if that can work, I'll really support it. That you've got a certain party leading a certain department, but when you come to the standing committee, it's led by different. But I think we see that in Scopa. I mean, you can see that Scopa. That is why Scopa is very visible, works very well, because Scopa is led by a different party.
I'm with governance expert Professor Mazwe Majola as we continue to look at the challenges around the formation of the next cabinet in this 7th administration. Professor Majola, appreciate you staying with us. So let's talk about personality. I mean, you talked about personality. I want to talk about personality of the various political parties and how it's going to manifest in this 7th administration and this cabinet, how we'd like to see it. The DA governance issues that we talked about a little bit later on, the Patriotic Alliance, for instance, what do they bring? The IFP, etc. How important are these political parties in maybe creating some form of moderation against various extremist ideas, if you will?
It's going to be a tall order. You know, it's not going to be a walk in the path. Suppose they agreeing on this situation of cabinet ministers and all. To me, I would say that will be a first stanza of the whole thing. I mean, the first hurdle. Because remember that now, after that, they still need to go to a lihutla or to whatever dialogue, and then they need to put together and discuss different policies. You know, remember that when DA campaign, they campaign with a certain policies for their own voters. ANC said the same thing, PA. Now, when they come, they need to now to find each other and say, DA, you said this, ANC, you said this. But of course, yes, as you can see that with this government is about compromise. What policy can we put for the next 5 years that can be workable? You are not going to get everything that you wanted, also you are not going to get everything that you wanted. So that is still going to be hateful now. It's still going to require level-headed leaders who will be able to find each other, and then who will put again, we'll repeat this thing, who will put the whole country first. For instance, we're talking about the transformation policies. We know the stance and we know the position of DA when it comes to black empowerment, BE policies, employment equity policies, and all those things. And then they are against that, you know, they are criticizing that. And then the ANC is pushing the BE and employment equity and all those transformational policies. So now, they have to find a middle ground, you know, to say, ANC will say that, no, but we still need BE, we still need employment equity. And DA will say that, but as the way it is, for us, we are not supporting it. And now they'll have to find a way to say, okay, then what can we put that can be workable and that can be operational for the next 5 years?
So the conversation has largely been about the Democratic Alliance and the ANC, right, who have a little over 60% between them. But the other parties to this GNU, what's on the table for them? It's
very important. You are correct. That's a very important question. It's very, very important as well, obviously, because they've joined, and also they've got their own interests, their own demands, and their own policies. PA will come and say, and also even I so wish that really, when they come together in a table, they will be matured enough and put aside these personalities thing, especially between DA and PA, when they come together and say, look, let's work together for the sake of the country. So,
but how much? Sorry, Prof, how much of this animosity between the parties is real? So yes, we have seen the EFF in Parliament at loggerheads with a number of political parties, but the attitude by the other political parties is less expressive, if you will, for want a better description. So take Patriot Alliance and their party leader, Gator McKenzie, and all that he says, and his robustness, if you will. How much of that are we likely to see in Parliament or behind closed doors? Or is it going to be a little bit easier for them to find common ground?
Well, what I hope for Parliament is that the parties that are not part of GNU, or those ones called Progress or part of Progressive Caucus, that they've chosen
which has largely fallen apart.
Yeah, they've chosen not to join GNU because of their own reasons, as we've stated already. That EFF says we want to join, but we don't want DA and Freedom Front to be there, and MK says we want to join, but remove Ramaphosa as the president. So. The fact that they opted not to be part of GNU, we hope that they will become good opposition party, because that's another factor that is very, very important. I like what Action SA said, that look, we are supporting the GNU, we are supporting what we are doing, but we feel that we want to be part of, or we want to provide that objective, independent and robust opposition party in Parliament, because we still need that. You know, we hope that EFF, MK, they will provide that positive and constructive opposition parties without being disruptive, without being chaotic and all, that they will be able to, because we need that, you know.
But do we need numbers for robust politics, robust opposition? Is it about numbers? Because the DA, who were the official opposition, had the numbers in Parliament to oppose. Now, if you have a handful of seats, can you still be robust opposition?
Not really. I don't think you need you need numbers when it comes to voting. Obviously, politics is about numbers because at the end of the day, a matter will have to be voted for, and then the one that is in majority will always win. But to be an opposition, but you don't need numbers. You just need good people there who will identify issues and then work on those issues and take the government and executive into account and be visible and be transparent and make noise, good noise, not disruptive noise, but just to make sure that they are there in terms of accountability. They will be respected if they do that. Yes, when it comes to motions, whether it's a motion of no confidence, you will need numbers there, obviously, because it will be a voting matter. But in terms of raising issues, I think you can be you have two seats, 6 seats, and then you can still do a very, very great work in terms of raising important issues.